Whoa, this broadcast is live.
What?
Welcome. This is Convention Conversations, episode 12, hosted by the Transparency Coalition. My name is Timothy Hughes. I will be serving as the moderator today, where we will be discussing and breaking down communication. Literally, it's breaking down. So good thing we're discussing it. My pronouns are he, him. I am based in the Eastern region in New York City. I am here with amazing delegates, elected leadership for Actors Equity. We're going to go around and introduce ourselves. Sarah, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll go. Hey, y'all. My name is Sarah Quinn-Taylor. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am an Eastern Chorus delegate currently in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I know I said last night that I'm going to stop signing up for these, but I had to be at this one because I believe that Tim Hughes is certifiably our most controversial moderator to date. So, I had to be a part of the conversation and not just witness it. Thank you. I popcorn to Robert.
Hi, I'm Robert Ariza. I'm an Eastern Chorus delegate, and my pronouns are he, him.
My name is Katrina Michaels. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am an Eastern Principal delegate.
Hi, my name is Ryan Morales. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm an Eastern Principal delegate.
Amazing. So, as for anybody who is just joining this convention conversation series, it's super incredibly informative. We break down proposed resolutions that will be taken to convention. My God, in just 10 days? You guys ready?
No, wait,
6 days.
6 days.
6 days.
6 days. I don't 10
even days know. It'll be done.
Yeah, 10 days it'll be over.
10 days it'll be just the beginning, hopefully. Yes. So you break them down brilliantly by these different topics, and then we go down and basically discuss them. What is going to be proposed for the convention? So hopefully addressing some of your concerns as AEA members, or identifying what needs to be addressed in the future. So when it comes to the topic of communication, I don't think I'm a stranger to the idea that we've had really horrible communication this past year. I think that's definitely the foundation that we find ourselves in after a year of little to no communication from our leadership, especially comparatively to other industries, other unions that I am a part of personally. Where do you guys see the biggest flaws in our current communication?
Speaking for myself, I'm a fan of communication being in conversation with versus in presentation to. I think there's a distinct difference. I think we need to, address regularity of communication. I think we need to address access to what communication, and not only access to the information, but access to the pathways to really engage with that information and have change and have voices be not only heard, but responded to and included. And for me, it's both an access point, but also in the style of communication, I think needs to be addressed. And so that is actually, it's really rooted in member empowerment and member engagement, not just the selling of ideas when it serves a certain predetermined purpose by a small group of individuals.
It's interesting. I looked up the word communication, and there are two different meanings. There is the one presentation of information as a form of communication, and then there's the other definition, that's the exchange of information. That it's a two-way traffic. And I think what we are identifying is that we, as a membership, need more of the exchange of information. We need the traffic to be flowing both ways, and the traffic wasn't flowing at all for a while, and now I feel like it's only flowing in the one-way direction of presentation of communication.
It's interesting too, because piggybacking on all of this, and actually that's like so simple, you just looked up the definition. Wow. Like, groundbreaking here, Tim. Something that I have not done. But I do think it's interesting because at some point there's so much nuance to this conversation, and so many conversations. Because it's interesting too in terms of like the flow of communication and striking on the accessibility that Katrina mentioned. There are, like, since the start of COVID and beyond, like, there has been a lot of stuff uploaded to the website and the member portal. But then at the same turn, it's like, okay, but then also members have communicated that that format isn't working, or that, like, it's not accessible, it's not, and so then you're like, okay, great, so if we put it on the website and the portal and social media, and then not for nothing, the algorithms of social media and the frequency and the blah blah blah, like, I follow all of Actors Equity Association's platforms on social media, and personally they never pop up in my feed unless like someone retweet, and that all is like so far above my pay grade in terms, and like, and the emails that go out, like the system infrastructure, like Ryan and a few of us talked about technology in last night's episode, which is a very interesting conversation, and occurred late at night, so I was in rare form. But it's interesting because there's so many different elements of it. And I think it's so easy when we're all feeling passionate or like desperate or wanting change or activated in one moment or another to instantly be like, ah! And it's like so much more nuanced than that. But then also at the same turn, those feelings are 100% valid. Like, if I tell you that something is on the portal and you have PTSD from the portal, I'm not like, great, I will copy and paste the actual hyperlink that you can click on and log in. And then
So,
like, we'll do it together.
I don't think that this has definitely, I mean, I don't think this has necessarily been an instantaneous, like, we all of a sudden we need communication. I think this has been over a long period of time. And it's great to hear that like the more social media is being used, and that the portal is being used for that type of information. But until, like, when it is established as a form of communication, it takes the work, you know, it takes work on this part of our union to engage and establish it as a working system of communication. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never had to go to the portal or anything. Like, part of the social media and it being in the algorithm is like, okay, if you're going to be on Instagram or you're going to be on Facebook, then you befriend all of your members. You know, that's the first thing that you can do. The most proactive thing is that you can be proactively establishing your network. And then when you establish your network of your audience, it teaches the algorithm to connect to one another. I mean, I don't know if Actors Equity follows me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe they do. But that's my understanding of how especially via Facebook, like, if you feed the platform, then they're going to, you know, then it'll help connect those members.
Interesting. I'm going down a rabbit hole. Proceed. I'm just doing something.
Anybody else want to lay in their general ideas on this?
So this is kind of a specific idea, but my parallel career is as an online nutrition coach, and so my job is to coach people nutrition, but really it's to run advertising and whatnot through social media. And so I think what gets underestimated in how our union handles its communication is the level of touch you really need for people. Just saying that, well, we already sent an email about that, doesn't acknowledge the fact that sometimes people need to see it 3 or 4 times before they really sit down to read it and really sit down to understand it. Before they, we post this video across multiple groups, and some people might not see it until the 3rd time and go, oh, maybe I should sit down and watch that. And especially the way things are on social media now, it takes those touch points. And so having interacted directly with counselors, I regularly see them say, well, we already sent an email about that, or it's already on the portal. Why would we need to communicate with them? It's already there for them to find it. And I think something that we forget is that we've got 51,000 members who want to be communicated with in different ways, and some of whom are going to be super active and are going to go seek out the information, no matter how hard it is to find. And others might need to see it 3 or 4 times before they really take the time to engage with it. And we should, if the goal of communication is solidarity and connection between all members and between members and governance, then we should actually taking an active approach towards making systems and operating in a way that engages our members as much as possible, instead of passing the buck to the membership and saying, well, it's on the website, I don't know why you're not engaging, or we sent that one email about it, I don't know why we need to also post it on social media and post it here and post it there. But that's the age we live in, and if we care about people getting the information across, we'll do everything we can. If we just want to be able to say that we did something, then we'll pass the buck and say it's on the members. And I have personally experienced time and time again counselors pushing back against us wanting to inform members more by saying, oh, it's already here, or we already did it once.
And to go even further, to piggyback off of that and speak to the accessibility piece, it's like some people's brains respond to words, some people's brains respond to pictures and infographics, some people's brains respond to videos, some people's brains respond to videos with captions, some people's brains respond to videos that are not in English. I mean, it's like and rabbit hole reached. Quick pause, and then we can go to the first resolution. Actors Equity Association on Instagram has 2,209 posts. They have 43.9 thousand followers, and they are following 407 people. Out of the 5 of us here, the only person that Actors Equity follows out of the 5 of us, guess who it is?
Tim?
Robert!
It's Robert!
Yes, Robert!
Congratulations!
What do I win?
You win the only communication from this past year.
Wait, does this make me the president of Actors Equity?
Yes.
Wait, do they follow Kate Schindel?
They have to.
Dang it, they do. Dang it.
Yeah, they have to.
Because that's how.
Because if they didn't, I think that this conversation would prove that now, like, I just think Robert would then become president.
Be a
I think that's how it works.
constitutional amendment.
And I would immediately resign. Immediately. But that is interesting. I will say, on the other hand, I don't know how it would affect whoever is running the Instagram account or the social media accounts to have them following all these members, and then I guess it's not that important for them what their feed looks like, right? If they're only providing information.
It wouldn't necessarily clog the feed. It would just allow those people to have those posts prioritized. I can't speak to their social media strategy, obviously. Right. So whether they use it consciously to get news stories that they then report on, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm
we do have. I know who the social media. It's on the staff list. Because
is it Doug Beebe, maybe?
No, he's in charge of technology, but there's actually someone specifically for social media. So I will find that out and I will let you know.
I also think, sorry, now because we're talking about social media, which is like so much a part of communication now. Like it is.
Look what you guys are doing. I mean,
it is one and the same.
Yeah.
I brought up at some meeting, I can't even keep them all straight, but it was a meeting with other delegates, etc., leadership. I brought up the fact that people are now writing theater pieces on TikTok and playbills or Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, like sponsored literally like a ticket buying Ratatousical TikTok thing.
I think it was
Ratatousical.
Right, like Ratatouille the musical. I'm not joking.
Yeah, no.
I know. It's just funny.
All these people were like in it, right?
Yeah.
Andre de Shields was in it.
Yeah, it was literally.
Cast.
But like Actors Equity does not have a TikTok. I don't know what that looks like. Is it like funny videos of like dancing and speaking about like educate? Like that's a form of education. That's a form of communication. That is something, I don't know. It's just like something to think about, right? And then I like got like yelled at for saying use younger members, and then like people were like, that's age discrimination, and I was like, I gotta go.
Well, speaking of, I have two things to add. First of all, can we confirm that the communications department of staff at Equity is fully staffed? They haven't lost anybody to furloughs or layoffs.
That's what I've heard as well too.
I've heard the line. I actually have not seen any concrete information. I know that it's like it's been a catchphrase that's said, but I have yet seen it substantially. Like,
add it to the question list, Katrina.
Yeah, I've definitely heard it from former staff members. And the other thing about the age question in this communication is like, what about this Actors Equity under 40 group then? Isn't that? I mean,
I was curious about why that group exists, because ultimately the information is not going to be different from the full group.
No,
right?
There's now an all members. So why do we have two different pages?
I think it came out of. I mean, I can't speak to intent, obviously, but there's a difference between discrimination and empowering select groups, and empowering select groups who might not feel included in this. You know, I've attended in the before days. I would attend the meetings, and it was very rare to see someone under the age of 40 at a meeting. And sometimes it's hard to have the parlance then, you know, of how Robert's rules function and feel like you actually can have a voice. And so I obviously didn't create the group. I can't speak to intent. But we do have other specific groups. Like we have a stage manager AA group. We have a BIPOC AA group. We have various kind of different AA subset groups. And I think the intent is to empower those and create space for people in those groups. But again, I'm not the creator. I'm not the, whatever.
It's interesting because it would be like having TikTok for people under 40. Like, yeah, they're already going to be under 40 who are using TikTok. You know, like this is social media. It's already slanted that way.
But it's AA members. It's not necessarily about who's using the platform, but who is engaging with AA, who's engaging with AA policy.
I think Facebook.
Because also I was, full transparency, I don't even know if I was a member of Actors Equity when this happened, but I know that like any Facebook group that exists, you'll see like either in the title or in the bio or whatever, it's unofficial. Right. And like word is very important, because I know of at least one case where like the union was literally sued by someone saying, and I don't know the specifics, so this is broad strokes, but by someone saying like, oh, well, if this is an official platform and this was on there, or I didn't, like, so there's so these groups that are unofficial are different than the Actors Equity Association Facebook page that is run by staff.
But we receive more communication via these unofficial pages from 100%. Our elected leaders.
Yeah.
So in that sense, if we're being communicated to on these pages, then we're leaving out all of these other members who aren't reading what's happening on the under 40 page.
Totally. I was just going to say, like, there are people who I know because of like their literal mental health and bandwidth are like, I cannot enter into these Facebook group spaces. But again, like, at what cost? Because then you're absolutely right. Like, if I follow so-and-so on this platform, I may learn something that, right. It's like, yeah, none of it's.
We got more answers about the town hall structure in a conversation with Kate Schindel and an unofficial group. I mean,
Right.
That's how we learn about all of that. Anyway, interesting thoughts.
Transition point, and I'll just say, Kim Morgan-Dean, I hope you're still watching. Kim says, no concrete information? Legas. Hey, Kim.
Legas.
Kim.
Oh gosh.
Okay, let's talk about these resolutions, huh?
Oh, wait, we haven't actually read the code of conduct.
I totally
Oh,
skipped it.
crap.
You're right.
Oh
Who wants
my God. Turn off the live and start it over.
I'm gonna contact the
restart.
Code of Conduct
No, we're being
Committee against all of
transparent.
you.
Shit.
I'll read it.
Thank you, Robert.
Yes.
Wait, why am I on the big screen?
You have look at you.
It's so gorgeous.
Wait, is this a joke?
Oh
No,
I just
this
learned
is-
how to do this. I
This
hit
is
the wrong
Ryan.
thing.
This is rude. This is Ryan.
That was an accident.
Wait, can you smush us together again? That was cool.
I don't. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
Oh,
good.
I can I highlight
This is
Robert as you
nice.
read the
I
Code of
like
Conduct?
this. It's a
Yes,
crop.
okay.
It's a crop frame.
Okay.
Okay. The Transparency Coalition is a group of Actors Equity Association delegates dedicated to leadership and communication that is truly representative of our union's members. We're bringing the discussion of convention resolutions and amendments directly to members through a series of live discussions, allowing members to ask questions and express their support or concerns in real time. We are committed to creating an environment that is rooted in respect so that we can productively create and sustain this inclusive, respectful, brave, safe space to discuss complicated issues. We will always extend that respect to members watching, and we seek the same in return. What we ask is that both the members engaging in conversation with us and the delegates themselves hold these two agreements. 1, speak from the I, and 2, confront confusion or discomfort with curious questions. While we are happy to engage in constructive debate, we view harassment and discrimination as a clear threat to free expression and participant safety, and as such, they will not be tolerated. We ask that members who engage with us give us the grace to say, I don't know, or to get it wrong sometimes. We bring you this series of convention conversations not only to have meaningful dialogue with current and future members, but to learn more about ourselves, about the important policies of our union, and to enhance our ability to serve as trusted liaisons for our fellow union members.
Amazing. So anybody who's watching, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to enter them into the chat so that we can address them live. Or maybe we'll have to come back to them if the conversation gets real heated. But on that, let's go into, we have 3 proposed resolutions on the topic of communication for this upcoming convention, correct?
Yes.
At least 3. I think these are the 3 we chose to talk about today.
Got it. These are the hot topics for today. Okay, so resolution 1 deals with COVID era communication. A little background. Communication from our union. Should I just be reading through? Or should we just
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Communication from our union is terrible, and it's been only been amplified during the pandemic. True. And this resolution seeks to, members want monthly emails in which safety plans have or have not been approved, monthly town halls on new safety plans, attention to why GA and SA agreements aren't being issued, which was kind of covered in the town hall, but we can go into that a little bit further. And then all staff emails to be put on the website for easy access to membership.
Just for clarity, GA is guest artist contract. SA is special agreement.
Yeah, special
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah. Just for clarity for anyone watching. That's what that means.
So, which we did kind of get an answer about, that they will now start considering GA and SA agreements as of
July
June?
7th? or
July
June?
7th?
July 7th.
July
Yeah.
7th?
And somebody asked in the town hall, I didn't really get a full understanding of that answer.
Right. I don't know if that means like starting July 7th, they will start to consider these, like they will start to accept those submissions of protocols, or they'll start for production starting on July 7th.
Right. Like, are they looking at them now? And
Exactly.
if it's July 7th, they're going to be like, hey.
I don't know.
And why haven't they
Unclear.
been looking at them?
I think the best answer I have, and again, this is just the answer I have, not any way that I feel about it. the answer, sorry. The answer. I'm speaking from the I, Robert. That's
I know.
a
I love
rule.
it. I love the
That's a
disclaimer.
rule in the code of conduct that we didn't read until 20 minutes in. Okay, Robert.
So now it applies.
I mean, honestly,
Before you were
just
fine.
still-
Now
I'm feeling some sort of way because Actors Equity Association follows Robert on Instagram. So, like, I'm just going to be real. Okay, the answer is that basically when when COVID hit and costs like working dues went down to zero, etc. So my understanding that like a third of staff was furloughed. So I believe the answer is that it has to do with just like pure manpower. And now to speak from the I've talked to, I mean, I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania currently, and I've talked to many people outside of New York, Chicago, or LA, what I refer to as office cities, that have been frustrated by that because it's like, but if me and my partner are both Actors Equity members and we want to do a concert for X that is streamed or has a small audience, etc., and we're quarantining together, like it's almost like it should have been the reverse. Like, not, I'm very much a person that's like, let's move forward, let's not rehash the past. But it does feel like in this instant, like it should have been reversed because like those things would have been the things to be like quickest approved. The other reason that I have heard is because outside of like the hours and manpower that it takes, is that the concern, and I think maybe this was said in the town hall, that like it's also because at any point that these things are being negotiated, either party can be like, no, and pull it, and or like it could get pulled like because of the pandemic, etc. So it was like kind of a cost benefit analysis by how I'm looking at it. Again, full disclosure, like I'm not in the rooms, like that's all above my pay grade. But like how I was looking at it, it's like the classic cost benefit analysis of like how many people do we have, how many hours do we have, how many that's my very, very basic understanding of it. And also, a lot of people don't know this, staff, Actors Equity staff is also unionized. They are not in Actors Equity Association, but they are also in a union.
do we know what that union is?
At least one
Katrina,
union is Teamsters.
add it to the list.
I will.
At least some of them are in the Teamsters union.
Teamsters, okay.
And I think what also to tag onto what Sarah's saying, like this is exactly what, like the reasoning behind why these agreements weren't and aren't being allowed is almost less important in this resolution, I think, than just simply the fact that we're sitting here, 4 elected people, going, we don't fucking know. I'm gonna curse. Sorry, I just cursed. But
I don't
that's
think
the
it's against
problem.
the code of conduct. Just saying.
Oh yeah, it doesn't say no swearing. I guess as long as I'm not swearing at, like I'm not saying,
Yes,
hey Robert,
yeah.
you're up. You know what I mean?
Why me?
Whoa.
Just
Because
people
Robert's
don't follow
so
me.
handsome.
I don't know.
Why you? Because Actors Equity follows you on Instagram, Robert.
I didn't
Yeah,
ask for this.
we feel less than.
I didn't choose this life.
Oh god.
The influencer life chose me. I didn't choose this influencer life.
Okay, back on.
Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
No, that was what I was gonna say. Just that, like, that really at the heart of it is the reason doesn't matter. The fact that we don't know the reason after asking about it over and over and over and over again is the problem, and that dips into what this is asking for, which is not the answers we want, just answers and communication. And I love that she's the person who wrote this, who I know is a she, is asking for these town halls, and I'm super supportive of that. Even if there's other things that like are hazier, like talking about the, our union can't or doesn't. I don't know if it's a policy or a rule. I haven't gotten clarity on that, but we can't just release safety plans and say who's been approved because it's policy for us to not to announce our bargaining partners' theater seasons for them. So if a production of last 5 years got approved in person at this theater in August, but they haven't announced their season yet, it's not Actors Equity doesn't.
could they possibly, I'm just thinking on the fly because I actually haven't heard this before, but could they announce the theater and the contract, but like not the show itself, like not, so because that doesn't go against, it's not, you know, spoiler alerting their season, but in, you know, it would let members know, okay, this is a viable contract that's going forward. Maybe I can, you know, one, it builds back trust in the union and the communication. It sees what work is going on, but also as a, you know, vaguely savvy business person, I'm like, aha, maybe I should look into this theater and like make sure I am then gearing my material and self. Oh, there's a director that I've worked with. Like it can empower us in that way too. And I also dig in this. I mean, well, I think it is important to mention, you know, this resolution asks for monthly emails. We did just start getting weekly emails, which for anyone watching, automatically the first 3 emails were sent to everyone. After that, which will be after the April 28th email, you have to be subscribed to receive it. To be subscribed, yes, you have to opt in. You go to the portal, click My Account, Preferences and Subscriptions. You'll see on the right-hand side, there'll be email subscriptions. And you'll see a list that says Equity Weekly. You need to make sure that is ticked so you can still get that communication. I do think, I mean, I've read the last 2 we got, and I'm going to celebrate as a good move forward. However, I also think it should be acknowledged that a lot of the information, I thought it was a concrete hub of, you know, what news stories are out there, what was on the portal, what webinars have been uploaded. I personally would appreciate more of that kind of specific back to work information, more that is kind of goes beyond how things are being portrayed in the media to like actually that concrete specifics that affect our members, and like numbers behind it. I think could be a useful addition. And again, it's moving away from a presentation model.
I think it's also interesting because a lot of these things that are being asked for in this resolution specifically I find myself sometimes catching myself of like, okay, but like setting an expectation for myself, a realistic expectation of myself for what is financially feasible, physically, you know, like all the things. And so it's interesting because I think that one of the reasons that I feel so passionately about this conversation that we're engaging in is like, it's another way to just like, if you build it, they will come, like showing up and like having these conversations, because are the logistics of coordinating time and money and et cetera to have monthly town halls, is that within like the official ability of Actors Equity Association? I don't know. I legit do not know. But like we are already I'm having conversations with people who find these conversations beneficial and like, okay, cool. This is called Convention Conversations, hosted by the Transparency Coalition right now. What could the Transparency Coalition and the mission that brought us here continue after the convention? And I'm breaking news here. I don't have a song or anything fancy, but last night, y'all, I've got to stop showing up to these. I've got to stop.
Continue. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Last night, we had a conversation, 11 o'clock number, Burning the Midnight Oil conversation about technology. And I shit you not, I just received an email to my inbox from a Actors Equity Association staff member who I'm going to protect their name, but the title is Director of Information Technology, which means Director of IT, who literally says, I just finished watching your technology conversation on Facebook, and literally is offering, and is like, it was so enlightening for me because I was a part of that conversation and someone in the chat said specs and I didn't know what like, I don't know, but I'm showing up and I'm showing up to the space and like, I'm here. And so literally I just got an email that's like, this was so enlightening to me. Do you want to hop on a Zoom call? And I'm like,
I will say
yeah.
I emailed them when we got the digital card option, and I've heard some people were having some glitches, and I reached out, and they were also not only addressing that specific situation, but really asking questions on, okay, where do we go from here? How can we also adjust the past as well, and both adjust the systems we have and create new ones? And I think it's important, you know, it mentions it a little bit in this resolution. Another, we're later going to talk when it comes to kind of both the accessibility of staff emails and as well chairs of committee emails. And I think speaking for myself this week was very interesting, and we had a lot of emails that were sent en masse to delegates. And I realized in reading them, a lot of them, there was a lack of information that was passed on to many of our members on what is the role of a delegate, how in our constitution, what are we allowed to do? For instance, we're not allowed to order staff to do anything. We don't bargain anything. But in reading it, I was like, okay, this is what your need is. I can direct you specifically to this person, you know, or having access to, I think, it allows for conversations. It allows for members not to be frustrated because then, you know, they're spending energy and emotional labor and are trying to engage, but not necessarily being able to reach out to like the right people. And so I think there's a power in knowing the specific people. I was talking with someone who was having an issue with a filmed audition and like how to do choreography in a New York City apartment, and the expectation of like renting a studio. And I was like, ooh, that's a really dangerous expectation. How are we addressing that? Okay, this person is the head of chorus affairs. Email that. And so like, I think that's really important, because there's sometimes an idea that the only action that can happen is at convention. And, you know, there's council meetings once a month, which firstly members can, if you are paid up and not an employer, not in conflict, you have the right to observe a council meeting, space permitting. It is always the third Tuesday of the month, 1 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And you can email our National Director of Governance, Alison Bodwell, the week before. I usually do it the week beforehand. I only became aware of it because I'm a delegate, but doesn't give us special access to it. You have exactly the same access. So be able to watch council meetings and be able to know who your chairs of committee are, so that you can be involved in the ongoing work.
Here's a clarification question. So this resolution has a couple different elements that are a part of it. Is this resolution passes or fails, or is each clause voted on separately?
They can vote to divide, but dividing it is problematic because we have 7 minutes to discuss. Doing the vote to divide is going to already take a couple of minutes off. And then we would have 4 minutes or less to talk about each section. So a vote to divide we can totally do, but it means that we essentially don't really have time to talk about. We might get a few little bits about the very first thing that gets divided out, but it's absolutely a tactic that can be taken if people feel very strongly about dividing out the pieces. But that motion to divide also has to be voted on by the full body. So if I get up and I say I want to divide this, and we don't get a more than 50% vote from the body, it doesn't get divided, even though I asked for it. So it's not anything anyone can dictate, but it does take up a lot of conversation time. But if we don't divide it, yes, everything just gets voted on as one slate.
And okay, go on. Continue.
I was just one little thing to note as well. So this particular, resolutions, like it either can be like, it is voted, it goes right into action, or it can be advisory to council, which means that if it is voted in favor of at the convention, it will then move into council and they will work on it and ultimately have the final vote on it. And so because this resolution is advisory to council, so some of this language may change before. So even if if there is, for instance, you know, a specific resolution that like there's one part you're not in favor of, you could say at the convention, like, I am for this motion. However, I would like this part to be taken under advisement and have that duly recorded so that when the council actually gets to that nitty-gritty final part, that could be considered as well. And so that can be a way to address it beyond, dividing and voting on it separately.
How is it clarified that certain resolutions are advisory to council and certain ones aren't?
You will note, so basically before, when we were submitting resolutions, we were given access to a legal review, which was voluntary. You didn't have to. The aim there is so that you find out really if your resolution would be found out of order. If it's found out of order, it's because it's illegal to do in this country. For instance, I move that on opening night, 16-year-olds can have a cocktail. We couldn't actually vote in favor. Or if it goes against like I don't know why that is always my example. I'm British, we drink young. Or it goes against like the AA's rules. And so a lot of people in that process were told, so what you're actually requiring in this motion falls out of the purview of the convention. Only the council has the ability to talk about this. Let's say it involves money, like there's certain things that only council is allowed to address. And so that language, a lot of that language was put in then, or we separately after that, even if you didn't do the legal review, we had a resolutions committee who went through all the resolutions, consolidated them, and also looked at any kind of procedural issues. And that is one. You would know in the voting whether it is advisory or not, because literally it will say, like, so this one, for example, it like the clauses are, be it therefore resolved that this convention strongly recommends to council that. It's always strongly recommends, advises. It will specifically mention council. And usually the word recommend is a word, or strongly recommend is a good tell.
Got it. Interesting. Okay.
Robert, did you want to speak to
I just wanted to highlight, before we move on from this resolution to another one, the final resolved clause of this resolution reads, be it finally resolved that effective immediately, all senior staff, executive staff, and senior business representatives' email addresses be listed on the AEA website for easy access and communication. And that specific clause, I feel like is really, really important. And it was something that was being asked for basically as soon as we became delegates, because we wanted to know who we wanted to contact for specific things, anyway.
Wait, that's interesting. Yep. You thought that this was just going to be a quick mention, but that's interesting because I want that. I need that. Personally, me. I do get nervous, and this is a fear that I have that is not going to affect me voting yes. Like, I'm going to vote yes to this, so like it's not necessarily something that's going to keep me from that. But now being a delegate and having my email address on the portal for people to then email me. I love when people email me because first I'm like, yes, engagement, like, let's go. This is a representative democracy, like, bring the emails. But then I get nervous because, and I think that conversations like this help, but I get nervous about any sort of, and I am a survivor of abuse. So admittedly, my hackles go up, like in terms of defending people from harassment and abuse. And it's something that is personally very important to me. And so I just get nervous. With great power and access to information also comes great responsibility. And so, and I think I could, and it even goes back to what Tim was saying of like, communication is a flow and two-sided. And so I think it's like baby steps in getting there. And like, I'm also in favor of this. I just like the first place as a survivor of abuse that my, is like, we don't speak, is like I'll just say it again and we can leave it and move to the next resolution. With great power and information comes great responsibility.
Right. It's also an email. I mean, like I think, oh my God, my phone's ringing.
Broadway.
I think
Is it Broadway?
Broadway. Yeah. Sorry. I think what we're saying here, is we just want to be able to have access. Like, even if somebody goes crazy and is like sending ridiculous emails, at the end of the day, we've all gotten a ridiculous email. I've gotten plenty of ridiculous emails. I will speak for myself. I have sent and received plenty of strongly worded emails. So I think that just has to be a part of it, because we do have that access to council members, and as I can attest to, more than half those people just don't respond anyway to the nice ones. So even if we have communication with staff and they avoid the negative ones, if we get any kind of positive communication flowing from the good ones, that makes it worthwhile.
Totally. And I just to yes and that, any person that signs up to be in a position of elected leadership for their labor union or their government or whatever, there is a degree of responsibility and accountability that must come with that. And I'm also not here to tell any of those people that their feelings or their boundaries or their experiences are not valid, and the reasons that they do or do not do something are not, that is all so personal. But just to yes and that, I can say firsthand that this sort of volunteer leadership position is 100% a thankless job, and no one's doing it.
But we're talking about staff.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
We're talking about pay. Yeah, it's paid.
Yeah.
It's part of their job.
Totally.
Should be a part of their job description.
Totally.
I
was just going to shout out Dave really quick to catch up. Davon said, the education issue is a huge problem. Delegates can solve this by passing Delegate Jackie Gerald's resolution, by passing the Black Theater Matters bill, which covers these issues, Articles 1, 2, and 3. We're not covering the Black Theater Matters bill in these conversations because Davon's show, The Receipts with D, covers the sections of it. And then Jackie says, thanks for the shout out, back to work. Good news, Mary Jo McConnell, this is long, but essentially she emailed about the council meeting because she was told about it and got a quick reply. So MJ. I just want to uplift that and celebrate that because
amazing.
That's exciting. Yeah.
I will see you there. Well, we won't have our cameras on, but we'll be there together.
I will feel your presence there.
In that participants list.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to resolution 2. Okay. This is asking more from our business reps. A seamless transition. Okay, the background. As members, we tend to only have interaction with our business reps when a problem rears its ugly head. This resolution seeks to require business reps to meet with the company 3 times before opening and once every 6 months after opening. This somewhat ignores the regions, since this is specifically Broadway and touring based for the 6-month out sections. Also require the business reps to have communication with the show deputy and stage managers. Super interesting. I know that I was under the impression that as of end of 2019, before 2020, there was attempting to be a big restructuring of staff where they were creating these field rep positions that would be going out to have more interaction face-to-face, even in the regions. And they actually moved a handful of people from business rep positions to these field rep positions. And they were supposed to be in charge of making sure the safety and standards were up to date. And ironically, these positions have all been furloughed. or laid off. When we're dealing with like coming out of a pandemic, when I feel like, you know, the safety standards and communication should be prioritized, but none of those positions exist anymore. So this is an interesting one, considering that we're really understaffed in our business reps right now. I wonder how that will factor in. What do you guys think?
I think for me, I mean, I will say the troubles I like, just from my experiences, have not necessarily been that a business rep didn't check in when there wasn't an issue. It's that they weren't responsive when there was an issue. Like I've reported harassment to a business rep and silence, nothing, multiple emails, which is, you know, you're already kind of putting yourself on the line with doing that. And that can be, or there was, or I've had issues where like I was the deputy and there's an item in the contract that could be interpreted several ways and that it affected an actor or stage manager's pay or safety. And so I asked for clarification and did not receive back. So for me, I don't personally, and I'm also thinking, you know, of like a lot of contracts that I question firstly, like what are we determining as periodic check-ins? What's deemed necessary per contract? You know, is this based on the type of contract? Is it based on the length of the contract? Is it proportional to the number of contracts that this business rep is assigned to? And I mean, I think I personally, and I should really do that this week, actually, even in just reading this beforehand, I was like, I don't know necessarily enough of what is the day-to-day of a business rep. And so how much is this an expectation added burden? Also, is this something that isn't, at this point, are we asking additional duties that we're not compensating them additionally for, which gets a little bit problematic in my book if suddenly they're doing these added repeated check-ins and, you know, there's how many business reps, there's not that many business reps, you know. We've got one in charge of LORTS contracts. Are they doing now a check-in for every single LORTS theater period? Like I do question the feasibility, and so for me, I am more inclined to invest in holding them accountable for things that are specifically already in a business rep's domain and is not necessarily being attended to, than adding additional duties. But that's just my personal opinion.
Do we know if that will? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, isn't my understanding that business reps' job is to check in at the first rehearsal meeting, and that these field reps are essentially there to make sure that there are check-ins? So like this isn't like a left turn from their current responsibilities. Is that correct?
I think it's just additional. I think usually in my experience, like you see the business rep at that first rehearsal, first full company rehearsal, and that's most of the time the last you see them.
And that's interesting too, and something, Katrina, add this to the list. Because I would be interested to look at like the exact language, I guess, of the expectation, because that has been like my experience, Tim, doing something like based out of New York where the office is like down the street. I do personally know from other regional contracts that I have done, and in speaking to members who specifically are not in New York City, that they have never seen business reps.
I've never seen a business rep.
Yeah, so it's Ruth also just commented, if business reps are too overworked why is it not showing up? Ryan,
they're both trying to do it.
Ryan,
we're both trying to do it.
Ryan, we agreed that I would be the admin of the StreamYard today. Enough, please.
You're right. I guess I have control issues, obviously.
Thank you, clearly. If business reps are too overworked to respond, though, perhaps we need more reps. And then Jason A. Quinn says, for most leaders not in office cities, staff does not do the first rehearsal meeting. Stage management has to lead it. And
which then is additional duties falling on our stage manager.
Okay, wait. And this is important. Thank you, Jason, because I had a conversation leading up to convention about this exact thing with some other stage managers, because that I'm speaking from the I. I have had stage managers do this. And my problem with that is that Actors Equity Association, though you wouldn't know it by the name, is a labor union that represents actors and stage managers. So if my stage manager, who is my colleague and union sibling equal, is giving this first rehearsal meeting, then I believe, or I perceive already, like a weird imbalanced power dynamic, because then I'm no longer seeing that stage manager as a fellow union mate in solidarity. And then I'm going, and not to say that they don't have authority and management, literally stage management, to do certain things, but it is this weird like middle ground. And I believe, I have to check on this personally, but I did have conversations with other delegates writing resolutions specifically about like first rehearsal meetings.
Well, we're living in a time where that shouldn't be considered a problem anymore. Like, just have the business rep zoom in. I mean, it's
and
just
that and that came up too, because it's like this past year has actually been incredible for things like that. But yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, here we go. There's an entire resolution. This is from Ruth, a stage manager delegate, saying there's an entire resolution arguing that stage managers shouldn't have to run first rehearsal meetings. Yes, exactly for what we're speaking to.
I have it.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. But exactly, Tim, like, I think it's like there's been silver linings. There's been so many silver linings to this past year. And like, this is definitely one of them. And there's so many logistics of like, okay, well then who schedules that? Is it the union? Is it the producer? Is that, like, there's so much minutia that like I hadn't even considered, but it definitely is, like ties into this, I think, of like, okay, let's get some of this stuff super specific, super granular, super like clarified, because it only serves to help everyone.
Do we know if there is hope that these field rep positions will return? Like, do we know what the priorities are for bringing back staff? Is there a plan in place for that?
I believe, and this was like mentioned at the town hall, and then I did some digging, et cetera, previous to some federal legislation that was passed that Actors Equity Association and other labor unions were actually specifically pushing to be passed. Labor unions are now eligible for PPP loans. So I'm pretty sure that, and this may actually be an executive session at the council meeting, which, full disclosure for anyone that is observing tomorrow, there's sometimes that executive session happens in council, which means that observers have to leave, and then you'll be notified when you can come back. And that's not for any like nefarious reason. It's literally because counselors have a legal fiduciary duty to the union. They take a special, like they have a special legal lawful obligation to certain things that now we're spiraling, but essentially, like, it's not anything nefarious. It's just like sometimes that has to happen. But I believe that council has to vote on the PPP application or something. Like, I know that Actors Equity Association as a labor union is excited that now labor unions can apply for and receive PPP money from the government, because that will help them bring back staff, which I think is a huge piece in like getting us back to work. Because as people get vaccinated, et cetera, it's all interconnected. But like, we're going to have this amount of staff still to handle like even more proposals and contract like coming. So I think that if it's happening tomorrow, maybe, I don't know, but I think that like the PPP eligibility and that money is the answer. But it has a million processes to like actually be approved.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, who's going to come back first? Like, will they do like because the field rep position was new? Like, will that be the bottom end of the totem pole? Like, will that factor into the passing of this resolution? If this is a shared responsibility between two different jobs,
right.
And who will ultimately be the face to contact for what, for certain concerns when we're dealing with both a business rep and a field rep. That's why I asked, because I feel like that would complicate a lot of
back around. That is like all great questions that I don't know.
Yeah, and I just wanted to uplift a part of this other resolution that we've referred to that is deeply connected to this other resolution, which covers other elements of that first rehearsal meeting and how voting should be done. But the first thing it says is, be it resolved that the convention recommends to council that a staff member from Actors Equity Association attend and run every first rehearsal meeting, either virtually or in person. So that speaks very like point blank. It also has some other points along the way, but speak to that.
That's great. That sounds like a great resolution. I think this one's
a good segue into the next resolution too, because it does kind of speak to the virtual meetings.
Look at this! Look at this segue that's happening. It's like
seamless
we didn't log into StreamYard only mere minutes before we went live. It's like phenomenal.
All right, resolution 3: communication and member engagement. Here's the little background. Again, communication. What a hot topic. Hasn't been so great. And the Actors Equity website hasn't always been working for our members. Member engagement is finally happening, but the communication hasn't always followed. With the pandemic, members could Zoom into membership, council, and committee meetings, which is currently happening. This resolution seeks to increase communication by allowing meetings when we are all on the other side of this pandemic to continue to be done by Zoom, specifically membership and council meetings, since they were always held in person until this great pause happened. The union should also list all chairs and vice chairs of all committees on the website, which should be updated and made more user-friendly to include when all meetings are and how to attend.
I also just want to add that the maker of this resolution is Elizabeth Ramirez, and they've given their consent to say their name, and they're awesome, and they can also be featured on previous episodes. So just adding that before we dive in.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I honestly think this was a no-brainer, personally.
Yes. Agree.
I agree. Especially, oh, hey, Ryan. Especially because the chairs and vice chairs specifically of committees are elected leaders, like our volunteer elected leaders, members of, and this is something that I'm super passionate about. I'm passionate about a lot of things, but so Davon says no brainer. Robert. Thank you.
Maybe you'll make the AA Instagram.
That's why they follow me.
You know what? Robert's a straight shooter. I guarantee if we track down who the social media manager specifically is, that's what I would say, hey, why are you following Robert and not me? They'll say, Robert's a straight shooter, and I can't say the same for you.
I think they would say it's a no-brainer.
They would say it's a no-brainer. Yeah.
We gotta use Robert catchphrase.
Gosh dang it. No, I think that it's super important because speaking as someone who had no idea what I was getting into when I was like, sure, I'll collect petitions and run for delegate. It was coming from a place of, I have been the equity deputy on nearly like every show I've been a part of, but that's like my limited perspective is like, okay, I've been the deputy and I've read word for word those contracts, but like there's a bajillion contracts. So, and there's so many people that know so much more than me. But I decided to run from just a place of frustration and exhaustion and like reaching out for help and being met with like, it's on the website, disengage, like, or join a committee, disengage, like, and not even like, but wait, how do I do, like, literally, and that's
honestly,
it.
that language is triggering. That language is triggering to me.
Right. And that's why I literally said like portal PTSD, but but I ran from a place of like, I'm tired of hearing words that I'm sure are correct, but not knowing. I'm frustrated and I'm tired of not knowing. And so I think that this resolution aims to strike a balance. This resolution aims to strike a balance of the like flows of communication, I think, of like, yes, a union is only as strong as the education, engagement, activation of its members because we are the union. But in the same breath, please do not say we are the union and then not provide things like this to like help with that engagement. I think that makes sense. But Meredith Beck also just added, important to know if one person is chairing multiple committees, but they aren't active, spread too thin. Also that, like, it totally, because I think that's something that I hadn't even considered, but access to this information also helps develop empathy and understanding amongst membership of like, wait a minute, I've seen this person's name 3 times. Oh, they're chairing 3. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll rework the first sentence of my email. Yeah, like, I just think, like, again, I think I need a t-shirt that says nuance, but
it's also, that's really, that would be concerning. You know, that'd be really concerning if one person who, like, we didn't know their name was chairing these committees and not engaging with membership. That would be something that would be a red flag for me to see if we were allowed to see it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm on team no-brainer here. You know, I think we've learned during the pandemic how like certain things that we were told, oh, that can't be done from home, that can't be done virtual, and now it's like, oh, it actually efficiently can. And we look at who can be included in a meeting. You know, like if I am a caregiver, it is expensive for me to leave and have someone take care of my kid so that I go to like even being in New York City centric here, going to New York, like to the office and going to a meeting, I have to have a caregiver take care. Like if we look at people who are outside of office cities and how they can be included and how their voices can be actually heard in a meeting, how they can bring motions to the floor for this. You know, we have a June 7th meeting. June 7th is the next meeting. And you as a paid up member have a right to bring a motion to the floor, which if voted on at that meeting will then move forward. It will be put in the delegate portal for the next convention. Resolutions for the next, we're talking 2022 at this point, but it doesn't have to be purely through a delegate, through an indirect system. You have a right to use your voice, and making it virtual means it's more accessible for our caregivers, for our people with disabilities, for people who are in outside office cities. It's important, and it can be so efficiently done. And then when it comes to, you know, knowing our chairs of committees, it just helps people direct energy in efficient ways. And as Sarah mentioned, you know, I know I can look up who my elected officials are, what their email is, but do I know that that one specifically deals with the EOC, or that one deals with the EPA? So I don't know who to direct information. And so as a member, that can be incredibly frustrating, because I'm just doing a whole added layer of work just to speak to the appropriate person and get action done. It also isn't helpful for council either, because right then, the only other recourse for me, if I actually want to pursue this, is to email everyone on council, when really I just had to email one person and have a direct conversation. And this allows that. And then also, it states here having a calendar. It shouldn't take, I only found out when council meetings were because someone shared it with me when I was a delegate. It shouldn't be word of mouth is how you find out about it. And if I've talked to members who've been members for decades, and they didn't even know, one, they had a right to observe a council meeting, and then two, when it is, I put on my Google Calendar, I have an alert, it's set that it goes off every month, and I have an alert that reminds me to email in. But if we actually had a calendar of events, so people are not only notified, but truly included and are actively welcomed into the space. And part of that is, I think the resolution mentions this word, but discoverability, having this really not just hidden beneath, but really a reach out is done with this information, so that it ultimately comes down to empowering members and really allowing them to use their voices. So I understand this.
It's been a long time of not that, not that kind of behavior. And I think one of my concerns about the convention in general was, okay, so we don't have great engagement for our elections. We don't have great engagement for membership in our surveys. And now we're going to ask, people to vote on this on a convention and then get delegates. So we're going to have less and less people voting for less and less. It's going to become smaller and smaller. I think the amazing silver lining of the convention is these delegates are you guys who are I never could have anticipated this, or I just didn't anticipate that it would create this groundswell of this grassroots conversation, because it actually allowed people to have somebody to communicate with for the first time. That hey, I have an issue now. I can just now I have access to all of these people, or I have friends who are now delegates, because there's so many more of them, and it started to open up this engagement for the first time. But then now more people want to be engaged, and now the delegates want more engagement, and now these big closed doors of council are being are feeling the pressure. So it has and they've been operating that way for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. And I always say this too, because again, my experience of just being frustrated and diving in and asking a million basic questions. I joke that I'm the resident, wait, can you explain that to me? I'm a fifth grader, person, yeah. Hold on, wait. Because once I wrap my brain around it, then I can, you're saying, grassroots, help other people try to wrap their brains around it. But yeah, that one thing about all of that is I always say to people that are asking me questions, there are no stupid questions. It does not matter what brought you to this exact moment, why you're here, what you're feeling, what the point is you're here now. So let's do the work. You're here, great. And so I try to approach everything with that mindset, because I just think it's important. Hold on, I have to just amplify a few things. Davon says, so you are anti-reply all, and I hear, speaking from the I am team #no-brainer, team #anti-reply all. And I will state that affirmatively for the record. Also, on a more serious note, Meredith also said, as a follow-up to the committee chairs conversation we had, it's also not a resume filler. There's real work. If people share too much, it is problematic. And then she also said, laughing face emoji. Well, yes, but really it's more my thought that, quote, there is no limit to the number of things one person can do poorly. End quote. So just amplifying
Like
that
something my mother would say.
amplifying that. But yeah, I mean, I think that the conversation that we've had today, the space that all of us here and all of us not here that chose to run or engage or click play on this video, like, there is value in all of that, of like, now you're here, awesome, welcome, we need you, and even future members or allies of member, like, I am a huge, like, you get a answer. Like, I have so many people reach out to me that are like equity membership candidates and are like, what can EMC do? I'm like, this. I feel like this is maybe the place we should leave it. Jason Aikman says, so appreciative of all of you. If I just waited for this session, it would have saved me so much time writing overly long Facebook
the comedy goal.
Yeah, I mean,
and we all need a good job.
I mean, if y'all are not a part of these weird unofficial AEA Facebook groups, I'm never going to tell anyone to join, because I also believe they're sort of a cesspool. But one reason to join them is for Jason Aquin's posts. And that is no bias because my name is Sarah Quinn Taylor. No bias because we share a name. Only a little bias. This was so fruitful.
I think my like final thought about it is like, I love the encouragement of the engagement. I love the push for more communication. Like I think I'm 100%, of course, for all of these steps that would move us further along that path towards a more two-way street of communication. And I really fear that there's just not going to be an open arms response to it. I feel like if this engagement, this increased engagement from membership, this groundswell that's being felt, doesn't actually impact change, it post this convention, and kind of pretty quickly, like it will get out of hand. It'll get out of hand, in like not out of control. And I hope that it won't go into that direction. Like, I hope that it can be heard right now before everything really starts to crumble. But now's the time to really listen and make and enact some actual action. And I think that's like, it's great that people's voices are being heard. It's great that more people are entering this conversation, but there needs to be some concrete action steps from our leadership that I hope take place immediately and immediately following this convention, in order to resolve and kind of calm some of the voices that are starting to speak up.
Yeah, I think if I could say anything to validate all of that and speak from the I about when I have those same thoughts, the things that assure me personally, I can say affirmatively that I have spoken to many counselors and many staff in leadership and executive staff positions that have said, wow, we never could have anticipated when we voted, like when this convention was voted for, that we would have so many amazing new delegates and voices and perspectives coupled with activation and engagement from membership. We never could have anticipated that. And while it may be overwhelming in the best way possible, like, we are excited by it. So that's like, I don't think I'm breaking any confidentiality rules by saying that in the vaguest terms. But also, I do constantly have this battle of the wheels of change grind so slow. And I hope that people will email the director of governance and observe a council meeting tomorrow, because it's like, eyes wide open. You're like, well, no wonder everything's so slow and takes so long. Like, and stuff does happen, but like it does happen so slow. And so I'm constantly trying to personally strike a balance of change within the system to change the system, and like grassroots outside action, like these conversations here of like affecting the system. And I also recognize my privilege as a white cis queer woman in a leadership position in the system to be able to say, well, just hold on, it's just slow, and like change is happening. Like that also has, those words by me also have to be accompanied by an acknowledgement of my privilege that I can say that because my identity can exist safely in the system as it changes. Whereas there are so many people and marginalized groups that cannot exist safely in the system and need to see actions and change now, because it is literally a matter of safety and life and death, and not literally, no exaggeration. And so I know personally that is something that I sit with and meditate on every single day, because there is validity to all of it. And I think that it all has a worthy place in this union together.
I mean, I think that I 100%, yeah, as Devon says, 100%. I think one thing just to add is that members hold some power here when it comes to, we're talking about going beyond words to action, and how does this move forward and how is it received. I highly recommend observing council meetings, because these resolutions that are advisory to council, you will see them being debated, and you can also see who is against these measures, who is for these measures. And so next time we have an election for council, for delegates, you have power with your vote. And I know it's really hard often with the way our current elections work, and that you get a couple sentences that like have a catchphrase. There is no way to know really what people stand for. How do they stand for it? How, like, what are they doing behind the scenes? Who are they, like, how do they collaborate people? What work is being done? What work are they suppressing? And I will say I have learned so much from observing council, of who aligns with things that excite me. And so I think there's a ability to hold people accountable in the act of even observing in that space holds weight. And everyone sees the participants list. They know it's not even just delegates, it's rank and file members are watching. So if you are choosing to silence and suppress members and their voices and their abilities to create change, it is noted and has consequences as we look to build and shape and remove structure. When we talk about actions, these are rooted in removing structures that have silenced, that have suppressed, that have demystified the whole process. And as we look to removing those structures and building new ones, especially as we kind of build this new normal and remove kind of things that were normalized before that frankly, like, we're all exhausted by, and how do we change them? And I think members hold some power there. And, voter turnout is frequently low, and members attending council meetings is frequently low. And I would highly encourage both, so that we can work on this together.
It's really hard to hear. I want to say it's like really hard to hear that, because Sarah basically was like, they're horribly frustrating. They're horribly frustrating meetings to sit in on. And as a member who's not a delegate, if I go to sit in a meeting and I'm like, okay, well, this is frustrating, and I learned a lot about this specific meeting, and maybe these two people, but I'm not going to go to every council meeting. I shouldn't have to. I should be able to know that what councilors stand for through communication. I should be able to know, be able to go to somewhere in the world of this social media and technology and know how they voted and what they're supporting or what committees they're on, and where they stand on certain big issues. Like, there's no way that every member should have to attend more than one really frustrating meeting where their voice is not going to be heard. It's like, when is the opportunity for our voice to be heard other than the election? And they're fewer and farther between, especially with this with the convention. So I think that, yes, I understand. Like,
absolutely,
the
and I don't disagree with a single thing you just said.
Yeah.
I was actually just speaking because I'm in favor of all of these actions. Just speaking to, like, how you question the accountability level there, like, in actually getting them acted. So I think it's yes, and in the possibility.
I'll also just add, Tim,
Yeah.
you said observing the council meetings and my voice not being heard. That is quite literal for anyone watching who doesn't understand, because I had people, when I posted like, hey, email to observe the council meeting, I had members ask me, can observers speak? And to pile on to your frustration, Tim, the other frustrating answer is no. So literally, if the council meeting lasts however many hours it lasts, and that is something that I appreciate when members come ask me, because then that opens my, sometimes I'm like, here, and that opens my perspective, because I'm so used to, like Katrina said, I'll observe the council meeting and I have an AirPod in and I do a million other things while I'm listening to it. It's not, so it is full disclosure, and I'm sorry, more frustration for people, like what Tim said of like, my voice is not being heard. That is very literal. If you are observing a council meeting, you will not have any opportunity to speak, literal, verbally speak.
Can I also, like, to tag in to what everyone's saying? I personally don't think that there's a way right now to be involved in our union that doesn't require more than a bit of emotional labor. You can't, joining a committee is emotional labor. Being a delegate is an immense amount of emotional labor. Doing anything more than just posting a status is emotional labor. And we all know that, like, Facebook can only accomplish so much, and it can accomplish huge things. I mean, we've seen what Timothy has been able to accomplish with it, but that took a huge amount of emotional labor. And I think right now what we're experiencing, and what I'll speak just for me personally, is everything has a cost, and it's a high cost, and it's not sustainable for any one person right now. And I would even push back at what Sarah was saying a little bit earlier to say that I don't want to see, this might come across like really harsh, but like, I don't want to see anyone make any excuses for how long things take. I don't want to hear that argument from the people who are doing the work. And this isn't me saying that you need to do more work, Sarah. You do amazing work. We've worked together on all of this stuff. You know what I mean? But just that, like, for the people that have been putting in the work to try to get the gears to move quicker, what I want and the support I want to see is someone carrying the friggin' baton for some of the time, because it's exhausting to be the person always carrying it. And that's what I would ask of members. Like, if you can be there to observe council, if you have the bandwidth, right? If you have the bandwidth to just take a delegate out to lunch. I don't know what the answers are, but just I just want to say
take me out to
that
lunch.
there is no
I got my second dose yesterday,
and
and we'll be in the clear in 2 weeks. If you're fully vaccinated, show me your card, and please take.
I'll go. I'll take you out to lunch.
I'll always do a Zoom date with people. Like,
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, my email is katrinamichaelsaa@gmail.com, and I am, wait, that's not me saying take me out to lunch. I was saying for a Zoom.
I'm also single, if anyone was curious.
I'm like Katrina's Tinder profile.
I'm also hungry.
Is,
Wait, I have a funny story.
I'm so sorry. Ryan was speaking truth into my bones, and then I literally was like, "Please take me to lunch." Like, I'm so sorry, Ryan. I love I hear you. Yes.
I love the funnies, and really, just my point is to, like, say that any member that is frustrated that making change requires emotional labor, and then therefore isn't willing to do it, and is frustrated that in order to make change they have to do emotional labor, like, it's a weird catch-22. And I respect you for being in the game and getting in the arena, and I respect you for not. But, like, the one thing I want to say is that I don't want I will never sit here and make excuses for the time it takes, because it can always be faster and more on it and less reactive and more proactive. And I will also never make someone feel bad for not being willing to do the work, or for being willing to do the work and then reaching a point where they say, I'm no longer willing to do the work. And I would ask members and delegates alike to hold up your strong friends and take the baton when you can, even if it's for a couple of yards or a couple of feet. And I think that's how we create this massive change that I think a lot of us are talking about, looking for. Can you please do that other one?
I will. We have three comments that need to be shown before we leave the space. Yvonne says, this job is the prayer of St. Ignatius in actual practice. The work is grand. We also have Logan Bennett, a phenomenal counselor in Florida, actually. Awesome delegates here. Thank you for your work. Okay, hold on. Mary Jo McConnell says, years ago at a membership meeting, I proposed resolutions that observers could speak at a council meeting. It was advanced at the meeting to council where it was rejected. I had to reach out to a council member to find out if it wasn't passed by council. Reason for the rejection, a legal procedural issue. Katrina, add this to the list.
It's going on the list.
Interesting.
What is this vague legal procedural issue?
Yeah, interesting, Mary Jo. Thank you for saying that. And finally, wow, this has been 90 minutes. I think this can maybe close us out. Hashtag delegate Katrina.
No.
Can we do a version of the Transparency Coalition where it's just like the match game?
I want, actually for next year, I want a version of the convention that is like a la Temptation Island, where all delegates go to a tropical island for the convention.
I'm already wearing the crew. I'm ready.
You're already wearing.
It'll be more like Survivor.
You're right. You're so right. I'm only on a Temptation Island. I'm only on a Temptation Island kick because that's the current reality trash TV of choice for me and my girlfriend. So you're absolutely right, Robert.
I'm sure
Once
we'll have
again,
the budget
No
for
Brainer
that.
Robert, followed by Actors Equity on Instagram, coming in here to correct me. Survivor.
Maybe the only reason
Temptation
Actors
Island.
Equity follows me on Instagram is because I dated them once. I don't know.
All of them.
Okay, this is spiraling quick. Tim, quick, close this out. Close
Okay,
this
all right,
out.
you guys.
SOS.
We're closing. Okay. I want to thank the four of you. I want to thank all the amazing delegates who are doing amazing grassroots groundwork, efforts, putting in so much time, volunteering so much of their time to really put in these resolutions to try to make concrete action steps, put them into place to have real change in our union, hopefully for the better. So we will keep our fingers crossed that these great ideas are implemented. I want to thank you guys for this conversation.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Whenever
Most
you
controversial moderator to date made it through.
we can continue on. We can continue on when I take you all out for lunch individually.
Individually? Collectively?
Individually. Well, it's social distance.
Wow.
Not in groups.
You heard it here, folks.
I for sure. I got a Subway in my neighborhood.
Our next meeting.
All right, and with that note, thank you guys.
Wait.
Meeting.
You gotta tell us about Tim. You gotta read the next meeting part.
Oh no! Oh God! I gotta go. Oh my God! It's
Tim.
highlighted. It's highlighted. Closing.
It's highlighted in yellow, Tim. Dear God.
Oh no! I was really caught up. Okay. These Convention Conversations episodes will be streamed live daily from now until April 24th. Join us tomorrow, Tuesday, April 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, for an episode discussing some of the stage management focused resolutions, which maybe we'll touch on some of that we got today, including a movement to change the name of Actors Equity. Whoa.
Yeah.
Drama.
There
Tune
is
in.
a movement. There is a movement, and also one of those fancy Facebook frames for your profile picture. You know what I'm talking about? Like how you can add like a temporary thing. There's one that's like proud union member change the name or something. Hashtag change the name. If you want a rabbit hole before tomorrow's conversation, search hashtag change the name and like Actors Equity. Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't
Okay,
want
great.
that. I
It's
don't
not
have
for
the
you,
bandwidth
Tim.
for that.
Not everything's about you, Tim. It's not for you, Tim. Okay, I
guys.
love you all.
Bye,
This
guys.
is the
Someone
end.
hit the
This is
button.
the
Someone
end.
hit the button.
Go,